Hey, good morning, people. Just wanted to again, do a quick live stream. I haven't done this in a long time. Everybody's been quite kind of busy on YouTube since I guess a lot of the Americans, the UK people, are on this quarantine. I'm not on quarantine. The country hasn't reached that far yet. We don't have any instances of the virus here on the island, thankfully. And man, I'm looking at the news, and every so often you have a lot of athletes coming out saying that they've been infected. I think Donovan, people from a guy from the Celtics, two players from the Jazz. I think I heard Kevin Durant. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it's just really strange. But it just kind of goes to show how susceptible athletes are to this disease. And I think back to people saying, canceling these seasons and these events is not necessary. These are fans talking, because fans tend to talk in a very selfish way. What up, peace and power, Chen Smoke, and peace and power to Lisa Bales. I'm just talking about this, the coronavirus and athletes being infected and all of that. So I was saying that quite a few athletes have come out, especially athletes in team sports. Chen Smoke says it's about 14 NBA players so far, 14. But I think back when fans were against closing down the events. Fans don't want to lose anything, no matter what it is. They don't want they don't want to be deprived of anything for whatever reason, right? And I see now a lot of people, you don't see those comments anymore. You don't see people criticizing the NBA or these other sports for closing down. A lot of team sport athletes have been infected. Famously, you had the Rudy Gobert situation where people said he was very careless with the situation. I think there's a video of him touching mics or something, but I think that was before he was diagnosed. But even so, people, the precautions that they told you to take, he didn't take those precautions, even though he was not known to be infected. And when he got infected, a lot of people criticized him. So the NBA suspended its season. I think the XFL season is gone. And of course, the combat sports was affected. The UFC, I think, is the only combat sports organization that still had a live event since the coronavirus happened. Bellator, I know, canceled its event. And I thought that was a good move by Scott Coker. And this is why I always think Scott Coker is a much more upstanding dude than Dana White. He canceled his event. He paid his athletes. Dana White, I think, still had his event in Brazil. At which point does what the fans want and what your investors want supersede common sense and athlete safety? Where do those things intersect and where do they diverge? Fans, as I said, don't want to be deprived of anything. Fans want the games to go on. They don't care. They want their circuses. They want their games. They want the games and circuses. They want the gladiatorial combat no matter what. Because I guarantee you, if boxing events were still able to go on, even though the coronavirus was out there, people would still go to the event. I'm not telling anybody to be afraid of anything, but there's certain things, you really should take precaution with. But as fans, sometimes, I think we don't put the athlete's health and safety at the front of our mind when we want what we want. So that's just one point I wanted to make. I see it's getting really serious in North America. I think I saw the president says he's going to shut down soon. We saw Canada essentially close its borders. We see Portugal and I think Spain close their borders. Yeah, we're seeing pretty much almost all countries start to do some form of travel advisory or straight up ban against immigration. It's serious. And it's really slowing down or grown the sporting community to a halt. And I'm talking about all sports. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to talk about quickly before I leave, because I don't plan to make this a long stream, is the topic of athlete character. And this topic came up because of the new video of Mr. Tank Davis. And it shows what happened on the other side of the arena when he dragged his ex lady, in the back. And it shows him where what appears to be swinging a punch. And I tend to wonder, at which point does an athlete's character affect how you view them or how you support them? At which point do the things that athletes do outside of the ring or off the court, which point would it make you stop supporting that person? You have people living lives of that's right. We can't be selfish. Safety should always be first. I agree, Lisa Bales. We don't take into account that these people are in close physical contact with each other, and it goes into how people even treat athletes. Like you hear your athletes complain about how fans talk to them crazy from the stands, and fans are disrespectful to them, on the field. It's crazy. But anyway, so at which point does an athlete's character affect how you support them? Does an athlete's actions off the court or outside the ring, outside the cage, would that affect if you support them or not? Like if a person is a complete prick outside the ring or outside the cage, off the field, off the court, if they're a complete prick, they have a bad attitude, they have, whatever, would you still support this person in the ring? If this person is always up to nefarious means off the court, outside their profession, would you still support them? I think it's interesting because there are people who come on certain sport, some of these lives with different people. And I want to shout out the UGC channels. You should always, support the UGC. I think, we have some of the best channels. But you have some people who come on these lives and they still throw their support behind people with dubious character. No, what I will consider dubious character, what I will consider sucker shit off the court, that might not be the same thing for somebody else. But when you see somebody like Gervonta Davis, who does really sucker shit after, outside the ring. When you see Adrian Broner keep getting DUIs and always in some dumb shit after, outside the ring. To cross a certain line and I can't support anyone. What line do they have to cross for you, Chance? What would be the point where you say no? What kind of actions do they have to take outside the ring or outside the cage, off the court, whatever? What would you consider too much? Now, famously, way back when, if you're too young, you probably wouldn't remember. Charles Barkley had a commercial where he said, "I'm not a role model. I am not a role model." But all athletes, in a way, are role models, whether they like it or not, because you take up a space on people's TVs, or if they listen to radio or whatever, you take up a block of their time and they hear your name over and over and they support you and they want to see how you are after court or wherever. So all athletes are in a way, directly or indirectly, role models. So again, what I might consider bad character might not be the same for you. But another question is, right. Another question is, do the things you support of athletes reflect you as a person? Like if a person is a serial abuser of women, but you still throw your support behind this person, does that reflect upon you as a person? Does that reflect upon you? Because you obviously have certain social mores about yourself. And most people would say, I'm not an abuser. I'm not a person who's prone to domestic violence. But if I'm not that way and I condemn it in my personal life, but I support somebody's business who commits those sort of acts, what does that say about me or you as a person? Right? Should I continue to support beating on a female, is a line I should not cross? I agree. So now you have a situation where I don't support driving drunk. I don't drive drunk. I don't do any of that. But yet you have people who are prone to that and seem to be unapologetic about it. Athletes who are prone to that, about being intoxicated and living a sort of life of excess. And trust me, a lot of athletes live lives of excess, but they don't do dangerous things. So you have a situation famously of Errol Spence, who flipped his Ferrari. But even before that, Errol Spence, people were saying he was a alcoholic. Now, before that, I used to say, well, I've never seen any proof of Errol Spence being an alcoholic. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't follow Errol Spence on Instagram or any of that. But I heard, the first person I heard saying that was a guy called Nate Jones. And he used to say Errol Spence is not going to have a long career because he drinks too much, he parties too much. Right? And I the only time I've ever seen Errol Spence drunk, whatever, was at that PBC event, famously, when it was him and Robert Easter and Tank and all these people. They were obviously drunk. Right? And that was not a good look, but that was the only time. But before that, I had never seen him in anything, but people kept saying it. And then you realize this man really has a problem when he flipped that car. And then after that, you see him still in the club. What up, Tim W? Peace to you, man. After that, you see him in clubs still partying and still, being around the same alcohol and whatnot, and people still backing him. Right? So I want to know, so if you're not a person who is an alcoholic, if you're not a person who is about DUIs and all that, should you still support this person? Or do you separate a person's profession from their personal life? Because sometimes you have to think, like, if I support this individual, I also support them in their personal life. I want them to be great all the way around, because these people are not just things on a TV. Through the advent of our social media, these people have become closer, well, quote unquote, closer to us, where we have more access to them. Not like once ago where you only heard about the athlete, in a newspaper or a radio report or a TV commercial. Social media has made them more accessible. And these people at times talk back to their fans and want their fans' support and all of that. So, if these people exhibit poor personal behaviors, should you stop supporting their professional exploits? Like, as I said, if you're not a person who's prone to being drunk, you're not a person who's prone to domestic violence, but an athlete might be good at what he does, but is prone to these same things, should you still support them? And if you do support them, does that reflect upon you? Is it fair to compartmentalize a person's personal life from their professional life? I remember Dan Le Batard said straight up that boxers and MMA fighters, should be given a pass because they're involved in a sport that's, you kind of have to be a bit crazy anyway to be involved in, because you're being paid to fight somebody else. You're being paid to put your life on the line every single night. So you can't expect these people to operate with the same level of social responsibility as other people. I don't agree. Because again, through social media, you have more people who have access to you. And when you exhibit a certain type of character, I've been saying that Spence just doesn't look right. Now, Two Hands put a video of him being drunk, and wow, that's unfortunate, man. But even so, you got people like Adrian Broner, who was found to be drunk behind behind the steering wheel of his car in Miami. I mean, I don't know if Adrian Broner is still a fighter or not, but Adrian Broner is somebody who has a large social media following. And a lot of those are young children, young kids, young people, adults also, because a lot of adults apparently are very impressionable still. They haven't fully formed who they are. They haven't fully formed their social mores yet. So they still look to athletes for their inspiration, right? And I want to speak, mostly about Black people, because these people, Black people, and if anybody's in the chat who is not Black, this is no offense to you, because I speak mostly about us. Our people usually gravitate to these types, because we a lot of us are attracted to the glitz and the glam and the swag life and blah, 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 blah. A lot of us are attracted to that. Famously, you saw Wilder lose his fight and people had meltdowns. But they supported Wilder because Wilder was somebody who I guess embodied what they thought a Black man was supposed to act like. I don't know what that is. Wilder loses, people have a meltdown. And people seemingly look to Deontay Wilder for their social mores. For instance, I've been engaged in conversation with people online, and they tell me Deontay Wilder is for the culture and Deontay Wilder is this. And I'm asking them, what exactly about him is about the culture? They tell me, if you don't support people like the Charlos and Tank and these people, you're coon, you're not about Black culture. And I'm really wondering, what is it about these people that embody Black culture or Black excellence, or even excellence as a human being? Like, what about them that is supposed to make somebody follow them, Black or white? I just don't know. But speaking from the position as a Black man, I tend to wonder, is it that Black people, some of us, let me say some of us, we seem to make synonymous Black culture with party culture, Black culture with slacking, Black culture with just nonsense. Is that it? For instance, we got into a conversation with with somebody about Deontay being some symbol of Black political movement. Things have gotten, greed and violence has always embodied Black culture. I don't agree. That is not true. I don't agree. I don't think it's always embodied Black culture. I think it's crept into our people over the years, but that is not Black culture. That is not synonymous with Black culture. Greed and violence, that's not synonymous with Black culture. People have tried to make it be like that, especially through hip hop, the new age hip hop mostly. People have, that has been something that we tend to lift up, and I keep asking people, show me what about these people you all consider, because I'm a Black man, that is not a part of my culture. And it's not a part of most Black people's culture. Money and social status. I agree. Money and social status is something that, again, the social media advent, we seem to really, I mean, push this shit. So no matter what a person does to get that money and social status, we support that person, right? Sorry, excuse me. Don't worry, it's not that beverage. So I keep trying to have this conversation with people, and they've never been able to really express it to me, right? What exactly about these people, when they exhibit poor character, which I consider poor character, what is it about them that people tell me I should still support? For instance, with Gervonta Davis, before all of this stuff with his ex, before all of this, people tell me, Gervonta, I should excuse Gervonta for how he acts because he's from Baltimore. And I'm saying, all Black people from Baltimore don't act like this. Because in that same conversation, this was an old Twitter conversation I had. I wish I could find it again. But people from Baltimore actually started replying and said, no, you don't make Tank the bar for us. We all of us don't act like this dude. That's him. There's a certain way that we tend to uplift our people, and we tend to back certain people that have certain character issues. I think my guy said here, we get money any way possible, right? Some of us do get money any way possible. But again, I have to ask you, if a person exhibits certain character flaws, certain issues within themselves, should you still support that person? Or as Chen Smoke says, it's according to what you do. What up, Red Glove Militant? Right? It's according to what you do. Because if you're an arrogant person outside the ring or off the basketball court, right, it might not affect you as much on the court. But as Chen Smoke said, if you're a woman beater off the court, outside the ring, he's not going to support you at all. So, is it according to what you do? Does your support of a person, do they have to have the same social mores as you? Can you always compartmentalize away how a person acts, to what they do in their professional life? Can you always do that? Because me personally, I look for people to support, because if I'm going to support an athlete, I want to support them and tell them, look, I want you to be the best person you can be in your personal life and the best person you can be in your professional life. Because if you want to take advantage of the social media where you're interacting with fans, with young people, you're being a role model. If you don't want to be a role model, you need to get off social media. Because once you start interacting with fans really take on the personality of their favorite athlete. They look at athletes and pattern themselves off the athlete, right? So you don't have to want to be a role model. You understand? So nobody is saying, but we have the same behavior. Again, I don't think we have the same behavior, bro. A lot of us don't have the same social mores. You know what I'm saying? So back to what I was saying about, the whole people using athletes to prop them up as some movement leaders or some social leaders, right? People want to use these athletes to somehow make them cultural leaders, to make them leaders of a nation, right? I'm telling y'all, do not do that. You can't use athletes to be what you want them to be. You might have certain political movement leanings that athletes don't. And I'm gonna share a video. What's up, Red Glove?
What up, Iron Kong?
Red Glove COVID. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I just want to talk about this real quick. This is a very good subject. You know, people, you know, making excuses for Tank, and not just him, but other boxers, you know, trying to excuse their behavior outside the ring, that if it was any of us doing that would be considered unacceptable. But because he's Tank Davis, or it's, you know, one of the Charlos or anybody else, you know, people want to make excuses for them, you know, saying, oh, don't be hard on them, they're young, or they're from this area or that area. These are all just excuses. Let's just call it what it is. They're excuses. And the reality is this, okay? You know, I've heard people say, oh, I am who I am because I grew up in the ghetto. My uncle, God rest his soul, he passed away a couple years ago. He grew up in the ghetto. And he grew up and he became a police officer. He was my uncle by marriage, not by blood. But he was African American, and he became a pillar of the community, you know. And actually, when he died, it made national news. So you know, you just because you grew up and had a particular upbringing doesn't mean that you have to put yourself in that box. You know.
Let me play a. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but to me, when it comes to Tank Davis and them, I don't even think it's about that. I think it's just about the fact that their fans, they want to protect these guys' images at all costs. So, you know, they look for any little excuse to make for them instead of saying, you know what, I like how he is in the ring, but I don't like what he does outside the ring. I like Kovalev, but he got a DUI. I don't condone that. He needs to, you know, that whole story about him beating a woman on an airplane, I'm not down with that either. You know, so we need to stop making excuses for these guys. They're grown men, all right? Tank Davis is what, 25? He's old enough to know better. You know, when Errol Spence Jr., when he flipped his Ferrari, so many people said he's a young man. The man is almost 30 years old. That's not a young man anymore. That's an adult. He has 2 kids, all right? You are responsible for the lives of other human beings, and you're doing, you know, acting stupidly. You know, it's just stupidity. But people, because these are boxers that they look up to, they find it extremely hard to give them any kind of criticism.
Right. You know, I'm gonna play a video from Malcolm X, and he was talking about the Black community and how we tend to, as I think Lisa said, you know, put athletes on pedestal. She don't put athletes on pedestal. So I think probably most people have seen this video, but let me just share it because I think it's very interesting.
I just told you a little while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lino.
Are you hearing it?
This included Dick Gregory, and this included,
yeah, I can hear it.
Comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community, and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear.
Right. So that was El Hajj himself, Malcolm X himself, talking about, you know, our community. As Sada was saying, for some reason, our people tend, because athletes are the most popular. They, you know, they have the most reach in terms of the populace. Athletes have that. However, athletes are also prone to some of the same failings as anybody else, right? And athletes at times have to appeal to a wide cross section of people, and they might take one position or the next, right? But when now in the social media generation, when these people show their flaws, they show their flaws for the world to see. You know what I'm saying? They show their dirty laundry, you know, for everybody. You driving drunk, you beating women, you stealing, you getting robbed because you drunk in a club. This type of nonsense. They're on 24-hour news cycle. And for us, we have to be very careful. And I know, you know, Malcolm X was talking about black people, but this is the same. It's like we tend to put athletes on pedestals. And no matter what the athlete does off the court or outside the ring, we will not withdraw our support from them. You know? And if athletes don't have your support anymore, would that make them straighten up? Go ahead, Red Glove.
It should make them straighten up. You know, if you're not, you know, let's say there's an actor that you support, and then you find out that they murdered somebody.
Right.
Actually, no, that's a bit too extreme. Let's say let's talk about the Me Too movement. Let's say, you know, there's somebody that says they raped them, and you have reason to believe that it's true. If you stop going to see their movies, that's going to start a snowball effect, which is their movies aren't making as much money. Therefore, the people in charge of casting for these movies will stop casting them, which means they're not making money, which means they're going to have to straighten up. Now, unfortunately, with that kind of allegation, they probably won't be able to recover, especially nowadays. But, you know, I couldn't really think of another example. The murder one was just too extreme because they're more likely going to go to prison. You know, you not going to see their movies is the least of their worries. But, you know, something like that, you know, and actually they could go to prison for that too. But you see what I'm saying? Like if it's found out that they're a very unsavory character. Christian Bale is actually a good example of that. You know, when he yelled at that guy, the guy who was doing the lights. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you know, and he came out and apologized because he knew that was going to affect the money that Terminator was going to make.
Right.
And, you know, as you could see, Christian Bale was not called to reprise his role as John Connor ever again.
He wasn't.
So,
he wasn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the next Terminator, they got some guy I've never seen before, and I don't think I've seen since. So that tells you, you know, if you do that, it should, you know, and every individual is different. Some celebrities just may not care, you know, like Adrian Broner, for instance. He strikes me as somebody who just doesn't care. But, you know, whether or not they straighten up, you need to remember that you have a moral compass of your own. And if you allow that to be compromised just because this guy is a celebrity, well, then that actually says more about you than it does about them.
Should you care about the athlete's personal life, or should the athlete remain an object that you watch on TV?
I think it depends. It depends on how severe, you know, the behavior is. So, for instance, let's say you got a boxer who they've been known to kind of reject fans when they ask for selfies, when they ask for autographs and stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily say you should just pull support. It depends on how, you know, not like Gervonta Davis, who smacked the phone out of a fan's hand. That's messed up. You know,
right.
Damaged the phone, you know, but just simply kind of being a little bit more standoffish or whatever, I don't think that's necessarily a reason to stop, especially when when maybe it's just a one-time thing, or maybe there's more context to it, you know, because sometimes, let's be honest, people are crazy. You know, there's people who have been known to stalk celebrities. You know, you know, come to find out this person was stalking, you know, like let's say Javante Davis, with him smacking that phone. Let's say it turns out that the person he smacked the phone from, let's say that they had been stalking him, they had, you know, been hiding in the bushes over at his house, things like that.
Right.
Then I wouldn't hold that against them. You know what I'm saying? So it depends on what the circumstances are, what the, you know, how severe the behavior is. I think it's a case by case basis, but I do think that when we're talking about, like right now, I think there's a DUI epidemic going on with these boxers. I've noticed a lot of these boxers are drinking and driving, and they're putting other people's lives at risk. And
Right.
unfortunately, hold on, I'm walking my dog, and this car was driving by the street. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, you have a lot of people who are not only still supporting them, but making excuses, trying to make it seem like it's okay. But let you or me get caught driving drunk, we're going to get thrown under the bus. There's nobody who's going to come to our protection except for maybe a mother, a father, a brother, a sister. Know what I'm saying? So I do think that you should pull support depending on the circumstances, depending on the severity of the behavior. You know, does it really affect anybody else? Are they maybe just a little bit of an asshole possibly? Or are they like really a piece of shit? You know what I'm saying? Like there's varying degrees, and the crime has to fit the punishment, or the punishment has to fit the crime.
Lisa Bale said we shouldn't care about their personal lives because it's not our business. When you're a public figure, you live in a fishbowl.
Well, that's why I said, you know, it depends on the severity. Like certain things, like some people hold it against Michael Jordan because he cheated on his wife.
Right.
You know, I think that's wrong. You know, like, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning adultery or anything like that, but that's a part of his personal business that I think people should separate from what he did on the basketball court. You know, Kobe Bryant, I know he was accused of rape, but as far as I'm concerned, to me, it looked like he just committed adultery with somebody who wanted to cash out. You know, that's what it looked like to me. You know, if it's something like, you know, they cheated on their spouse, you know, they things like that, yeah, I believe that we should stay out of that. You know, at least when it comes to their professional career. I think with certain other things like child abuse and the DUIs, like I was talking about, severe domestic violence. I've never hit a woman in my life, but like let's say it's, you know, all they did was slap their wife. I'm not condoning that, but that's not extreme. Now, when you have a situation like, what was that MMA fighter's name? I think they call him War Machine or something. The one that
that's actually his name, War Machine. He changed his name to War Machine.
Wow, but he's the one who beat the crap out of his girlfriend, who was a porn star, right? So I think something like that, I don't think you should ignore. I don't think you should separate that, because that's pretty bad. You know, that's
like, for instance, like I remember getting into it with some UK fans. Well, these people were clearly in the minority, but you got some people who support athletes, so much they will overlook violence. Like somebody like Billy Joe Saunders, who paid a woman who was apparently on drugs, who was living on the street, to assault a passerby, telling the woman, I will pay you this amount of money if you attack this guy because he's a pedophile. And the woman really did go and do it. I mean, she's maybe a drug addict and she needed some money. And the guys, you tell her, go attack this guy because he's a pedophile. So you're playing on her emotions and playing on her obviously frailties, things like that. And people were telling me it was just good banter. I'm like, no, Billy Joe Saunders affected multiple lives, that woman's life and that man's life. And then he puts it on video for all to see. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's exploitation.
But there are people. There are people who support Billy Joe Saunders no matter what. No, me personally, after seeing that, I was already not a fan of Billy Joe. After seeing that, I'm going to withdraw my support from Billy Joe Saunders, because you apparently have no sense of propriety. You have no sense of self or a sense of care for other people, that you would do that, right? And it's not like Billy Joe Saunders is a young man. This is a grown man with kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, no, I'm going to withdraw my support. Something's wrong with you. Then, hold on. Then there's another video of him that upset me even more, for obvious reasons, because he has two guys in a boxing gym. I think they might be biracial or whatever. I think one was biracial, and the other was black or mostly black, whatever. And he was playing a game with them to see who was more black than the other. Now, this again is a white man playing on colorism. And again, for Billy Joe Saunders, this is just a game. This is just ha-ha. This is just funny. You know what I'm saying? Things like that, I'm going to withdraw my support from you. So these are the character flaws I'm talking about in people. Go ahead, Red Glove. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Those are things that, those are characteristics that we're trying to get rid of in society. And if you're gonna say it's okay just because this guy is a celebrity, then I think that's the wrong message to send. Because what that tells the younger generation is, if I ever become famous, I can do whatever I want. It doesn't matter how shitty of a person I am. People will support me just because I can sing, just because I can run fast, just because I can box, just because I can act. I can behave however I want, and there won't be any consequences. And it also sends the message of, well, if I'm not a celebrity, celebrities are better than me, and I'm against that way of thinking. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with appreciating the abilities of another person, but that shouldn't come at the expense of your own self-worth.
I agree with that. What does it say about a person who, extols or portrays that they have such high moral standing in their own personal life, but might support an athlete who might be the complete antithesis of them? Because again, people see athletes as not people. You know what I'm saying? Angel Santos, how you doing, sir?
Hey, what's up, my brethren? What's good, man?
Easy, man. Easy.
Yeah,
man. We're just talking about how an athlete's character would affect your support of them. Should you care about an athlete's personal life? Does what they do outside the ring or off the court, off the field, matter to you? Is there levels to what they do?
I think, that's a good topic, Ironcon. I think it does, for the simple fact that it's, just like the NFL, right? Even though the boxers are their own team, right? They don't play for a team, an organization as big as the NFL or NBA. However, the boxer themselves are their own brand, right? And they are the face, their own name. They're in the public all the time. kids, minors, amateurs look up to these boxers, and their behavior outside the ring and what they do does get looked at by young amateur boxers coming up, young kids that avidly watch boxing. And yes, it does matter. Those antics that you see Adrian Broner doing and stuff like that, that is not good. It is not good look for him, himself, his family, and none of the fans. So the way you carry yourself outside the ring has a lot to do with the character of that person. And certain boxers' character does not relate to most people that are fans of the sport. A lot of these boxers are very self-centered, self-absorbed, and just selfish and do not care about anything but themselves
Yeah,
or their
I
immediate
think
family, you know?
I just want to say something just real quick. I think where it shouldn't matter in their personal lives is certain things like their religion. Things like
Right.
that is where it shouldn't matter. Their religion, their sexual preference, things like that. And me, I'm not like a pro, LGBTQ community person at all, but I do think that there's a certain base level of respect that we're all due, regardless of what your religion or any of that stuff is.
Right.
That's the kind
Yeah.
of things that we need to separate from what they do in
Right.
the ring.
Right. Because religion and how a boxer makes their money outside the ring has shit to do with the fans or anything. Nobody should question that. How, Floyd Mayweather can make his money, selling ass and strip club. That's fine. That's great. He's a businessman. That's perfect. But as far as the antics, as far as getting into legal troubles, that's the personal problem. That's the personal thing that the public sees, which is the thing that is not good. Beating up on civilians, getting into fist fights. You know what I mean? Having quarrels with a spouse or multiple baby mothers. It's just messy and it's disgusting. It's not needed.
The problem is, I think, also you have a situation where I said it earlier is that we're now in a social media generation, a 24-hour news cycle generation, where I remember athletes saying, if you knew the things we did back then, and saying, like, I remember like Michael Jordan, who was a person who's known to be a gambler, right? But they didn't have social media back then, like back in the 90s or wherever. They didn't have the social media. So, people could get away with doing certain things back then. You would never know. You would just hear maybe little whispers or rumors or whatever, but you would never know. Now, in the social media generation, where these people actually sometimes record their own folly and their own bad behavior, and then people still say these people are not role models. You have to understand, social media is majority young people. It's a lot of youth who's on Instagram and Twitter and all of that, and they watch what you do. So you could say you're not a role model all you want, but when you choose to do certain things, and I think Lisa Bale say, you live in a fishbowl, especially when you're a famous athlete. If you're somebody who, if you want to be the top of the top, you want everybody to notice you for your athletic exploits, understand with that fame comes a lot of attention. You know what I'm saying? And the things you do and say carries a lot of weight, in your own maybe ethnic community, in your own linguistic community, whatever. It carries a lot of weight. And I see sometimes athletes, they want it, they want to have it both ways. They want the fame, they want the accolades, but they don't want the attention of people watching them. And then they're going to say, I'm not a role model like Charles Barkley. Can you have it both ways, Red Glove and Angel Santos? Can you have it both ways? Can you want the fame for your athletic exploits, and can you still want privacy? And don't watch me. Can you still have it both ways?
This is what I'm gonna say. All right, I'm gonna say they should have a certain level of privacy.
Of course.
I mean, unfortunately, they don't always get the privacy that they deserve. Now, privacy doesn't mean that you have a license to be an asshole. It doesn't mean you have a license to beat your spouse behind closed doors. It doesn't mean that you have a license to do you know, there's certain things that are off limits whether you're a celebrity or not, you know. And the other thing that I want to touch on just real quick is this is why it's important for parents to when they're raising their kids to let them know it's okay for you to look up to celebrities to a certain extent, but the real role model should be us, the parents. You know, if you're a parent, you need to make, you know, establish that you are to be the role model for your kids. It's okay that, you know, they see a basketball player and they see they're doing great things and that they want to be a good basketball player like them. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to characteristics, how you treat people, where your morals come from, it shouldn't come from a celebrity. It should come from the parents. And that's, I think that's what the problem is with a lot of today's fans. I think they had parents, either they didn't, you know, they had a missing parent growing up, or their parents didn't establish that I'm the role model, not Jim Carrey, not Michael Jordan, not, you know, any of these other people. It's me. I'm the one that you are to look up to and want to aspire to be like. And I think that's why we have the problem that we have now. A lot of grown men who grew up without that role model, they're still looking for a role model. And looking for it in Errol Spence Jr. and Tank Davis and guys like this, and that's why they can't take criticism. When we criticize these guys, they can't take it because that's their role model.
Right, Angel. Is Angel still there? He gone? I guess he gone. No, well, I think you're right. Whereas with parents, but there's, as I think you said to the end, there's some people who didn't come up with that sort of structure in their households. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have maybe both parent or one dedicated parent. A lot of times, you know, we allow the TV to raise our kids and we kind of leave it up to them to find their way, right? Before it was people in the neighborhood who the kid would pattern their shit after. Oh, Angel Santos is back.
All right.
Angel.
Can you,
yeah.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yes, sir.
No, yeah. You know, a lot of these guys, you know, the grown ass men acting like teenagers, man, just doing stupid shit, man. Shit that like I used to do when I was a kid, man. You know what I mean? Like these dudes like acting all crazy and wilding out in the club and getting all drunk. Like I used to do that shit, you know, way back. But these dudes, you know, a lot of like Errol Spence, it looked like he was sheltered all of his life. So now he's just finally getting to be out and about and do his own. And the thing is, you got to do it safe, and you got to do it around people that actually care about you. Because him getting in that car crash and all that, obviously, you know, nobody really cared about him that night that he, you know, people was chilling with him or whatever. You know, that situation happened. Or the Adrian Broner, like a lot of yes men around him still doing these idiotic things, you know. And those are not the only boxes, but there's more. There's a lot of them. I think it's just having, like Red said, having that role model at home. Parents have to intervene and show them morals and ethics, you know.
But with all the athletes that we've seen make mistakes over the years and been well publicized, to domestic violence and rape and blah, 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 whatever, you would think that a lot of these guys would use those experiences of those people as learning aids. But we're obviously seeing that it might be getting worse, right? And the reason why I wanted to talk about the character issue is because, you know, I really look at these social media and it's like, even with Tank, bro, you know, there's this dude who D has on his channel, some dude called Alistair. And Alistair is like, oh, you know, sometimes these girls make you mad. I'm like, is this man trolling or what? Even if he's trolling, it's not funny. But a lot of people think like that. Tank, a professional boxer, walks across a court, yokes up a lady, drags her in the back somewhere in the area where they're coming in. And you see a video of him swinging on her. And he says, sometimes the girls make you mad. And it's young people, particularly of his age, that's on social media, right? Now, he might take that I think it's cool, right? You know, he doesn't seem to be a person who's in a bad neighborhood or whatever, right? But he's now supporting that. And you have other people who seemingly think this is cool. You see it on the social media that they ride with Tank no matter what. You see people exhibit bad character. Case in point, my guy, Angels guy, Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder has been exhibiting bad character for a long time in terms of how he speaks about people, how he approaches business and all of this. That's bad character to me. Now, you might appreciate him in the ring, but especially after his loss, he exhibited a lot of bad characters. A lot of character flaws came out. But the issue is nobody ever says, bro, you gotta chill. Don't go down that road. He's being supported by people who they themselves exhibit those same character issues. And nobody's gonna tell him no. Right? So again, the social media generation, he himself listens very closely to social media. If he realizes he has a support base that thinks exactly like him, he's going to act the same way. So how do we as fans take responsibility for how these people act? You know, they act a certain way because we act a certain way. You know, is it our fault then?
I don't think it's our fault. I think we can only really be responsible for our own actions. And our action, you know, supporting the bullshit is part of those actions. So
Yeah.
if that's what, you know, if you're there supporting the bullshit, you're condoning it. You're, you know,
Yeah.
coming at anybody who speaks against it. You know, you're not
Contributing.
responsible. Exactly. You're a
No, you're
contributor. You're an
contributor. You're
enabler.
an enabler, yes.
Yep. So,
You're
and that's not
contributing
what
and
it is.
enabling into the bullshit to grow into even a massive, more ridiculous, outrageous. What you have now in this time is some outrageous, outlandish monotony, right? To the day-to-day, these excuses that come out, that spew out. And it's getting to the point where it's not making the sport look credible anymore whatsoever. It's making it look like it's WWE, you know, fake, you know, because there's a lot of fake shit going on. It's a lot of
Lamar
bullshit,
Williams says,
fuckery.
the fans build up everyone. It's us.
Yeah,
Because we create these people.
he's
He
right.
says it's us.
He's right. He's right. If you don't give it energy, if you don't pay it no mind, then it won't, you know, it's kind of like how one of the movies, right? It's about the Greek gods and stuff, and how like the people stopped believing in them, and then they started losing power and energy.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And they started dying. So the Greek gods said, like, you know what, these motherfuckers need to understand. We got to turn it up. So he sent fucking Hades to fucking turn shit up. To be like, yo, make these motherfuckers believe and do bad shit.
Yeah.
Think about it. What the movie is saying. I'm gonna do bad. I'm gonna send this motherfucker out here to do bad shit.
So
people gonna be like, damn. Now people in fear. Yeah, I just chopped this motherfucker's head off in front of everybody. Now they all fucking bowing down. You know what I mean? So theoretically speaking, these motherfuckers are now trying to hypothetically decapitate all the accolades that a man did and make a victory seem like a farce when it wasn't. It was a victory through and through. Okay? And it's bad, man. It's bad. These people are sick in the mind, man.
I just realized, like, you know, a lot of these cats, because I really had to wonder, whose fault is it? I mean, these people obviously has their character flaws, but character flaws are what they are. I think we just said, is if you feed that monster, you're feeding the monster, right? So whose fault is it? I mean, these people come with their character flaws. We're feeding the monster. So it's really a partnership there. You know, we're partnering to destroy this person, because this person might have a propensity. Like I remember when Errol Spence got in his issue when he flipped the car, right? When he flipped the car, and I told IOTBA, look, man, this man might have to just completely leave where he's from, leave Texas, live somewhere else, away from the people you're around, because obviously these people are feeding the monster. You know what I'm saying? These people are feeding, are telling you it's okay that if you continue, that you keep coming to this club, even though you might have a propensity for drinking. So you have people around you feeding these bad habits and feeding these character flaws. So I said, look, you might have to just be extreme and leave. You know, you might have to move to like Montana or Wyoming, somewhere far where all you can do is train and watch buffalo. That's it.
You know, that's a good thing that you mentioned that, because a long time ago, like, take me for instance, I grew up in a bad part of the Bronx and stuff, and I was like, you know what, your choice of high school, I was like, man, I don't want to go to high school, my zone school, because if I go to my zone school right there, Taft, I never go to school, man. I always get into fights and all that, all this other shit. Like, you know what, I'm gonna go to school way the fuck downtown in Manhattan. I'm not gonna know no fucking body. I could, be on a fucking train, learn how to use a train and shit, and be the fuck down there, But still, man, I have fucking trouble, because then I fucking linked up with dudes from Brooklyn, Queens, and fucking Staten Island. And then we getting into all this other stupid shit out here in the streets. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, if you didn't do that way back then, you probably doing it. That's why I say he was fucking sheltered, man. You motherfuckers been sheltered and shit. Like Deontay Wilder ain't grow up like that. You know what I mean? Like, you talking about catching bodies and all, dude.
Yeah, that wasn't him. That
Your pops was a pastor, my.
He was a pastor, right? So
Stop.
is he playing it up then for a certain crowd? Like he's trying to be.
For a certain. Look, he playing up for a certain crowd. He got Shelly Finkel trying to sell him this, sell him that, selling them dreams, selling all that, except giving him the $120 million accept that contract, and he sold them pipe dreams, and now he's all in Hollywood and shit and doing all this other crazy garbage. It's ridiculous, man. You got these crazy, funny looking dudes with fucking goofy ass fucking wizard hats, fucking concocting some fucking $50,000 dollar costume for you and shit, making you look like a fucking, my God, man, you look like a damn, I don't know, man.
That's your man, though. What you doing?
Nah, man. I can't do that. Nah.
Red Glove, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I said a lot, so I figured I'll let Angel go for a little bit.
Yeah. Nah, man. It's just, I think I want to do more of these conversations about not just the sport, but just in terms of other things around the sport that we're seeing. I didn't want to do a long live, and I'm going to get off just now. So I just wanted y'all to, get any last words in about anything before I log off.
Hey, man, stay hydrated. Eat fruits and vegetables when you can,
Yeah.
Get some vitamins in you. Wash yourselves. Be careful. Look out for each other.
Yeah.
It's not just about you. It's about all of us. All right.
Yo, man, I see these people still went to spring break. What's up with that, man? Like, are people really that self-absorbed, man?
Hey, Iron Kong over here. People, all right. I live 20 minutes from like two of the biggest beaches in my area, and a couple of days ago, both them I don't know about yesterday or the day before, but like a couple of days ago, both those beaches were packed. These people don't know what social distancing means.
I'm watching TV. I'm like, what's happening in America? I thought they shut the shit down. Some dudes say, Corona's not gonna stop me from partying. I'm like, they need to lock you up and flog you, because people don't realize it's not about you. You know what I'm saying? But whatever, man. Anything you want to say, Red Glove, before I log off, man?
Yeah, don't compromise your own character, your own moral compass for these guys. All right, there's nothing wrong with enjoying what they do in the ring, but these guys are not. They're not really role models. I mean, remember what Malcolm X said, you know, in that clip that Iron Kong played earlier with Malcolm X, and he was absolutely right. You know, why in your community do you have to make these guys your leaders? You know, you need to you need to be able to select who should be a leader and who shouldn't be. It's not to say that, you know, a boxer can't be an activist. It's happened in the past, but don't force it. Don't make them out to be one when that's not what they are.
Right.
And that goes for any celebrity. That goes for any athlete. That goes for anybody. You know, like you have to be very selective of who you look up to, who your kids look up to. You know, you need to make sure that they understand that you're to be their number one role model, and everyone else plays second fiddle to you. That way, they don't grow up to be, you know, one of these people who can't accept criticism of their favorite guy.
Right. All right, man. Yeah, I don't really have nothing to say otherwise, but, you know, I'll be back. You know, I want to do more of these sorts of lives, not so much about the sport, but about the shit around the sport. You know, I really appreciate y'all coming on, man.
Oh, Iron Kong, thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Peace. You know, y'all have a nice day, man. Take care of yourself up there, right?
You too, man. Bless, man.
Easy. Hey, thank you to the chat. Lisa Bales, Tim W., Marta Machine, Samuel Shaw. You just came in, brother. Where you been? Lamar Williams. If I missed anybody else, you know, I part of Tahaka Tassetti, Tim W., all y'all, man. Thank y'all for coming on and giving me even a minute of your time. If you could please, you know, hit the like button on the way out. If you didn't, you know, like what I had to say, you could even hit the dislike button. At least you gave me a view. I appreciate that. Y'all have a nice day. Peace and power.